Robert Jenrick has been going viral this week. He's perhaps got a new video team or at least a new video strategy. What exactly has he been doing in these clips?
He's been seizing the online agenda. So there are two videos. One of them is really quite dramatic. Actually, they're both quite dramatic. But the first one is Robert Jenrick in action as the Tory Batman going after fare dodgers on the London Underground, confronting them, saying, do you think it's right not to pay? Sort of, excuse me, you're pushing through the barriers, pointing out that the TfL staff surrounding are just kind of looking on and not really doing anything about it. And then the second one is a bit different. It's taking aim personally at Lord Hermer, the Attorney General, and pointing out all of the clients that he represented in his legal career, including, as Robert Jenrick puts it, some enemies of the state. Both of them roughly, I guess, come under his brief as Shadow Justice Secretary. There's been some criticism, he's the MP for Newark, why is he in London? Well, fare dodging is a crime issue. That's kind of to do with justice. You can sort of see what he's doing there. The TfL one has 15 million views. It has been really widely watched. And what I think is interesting is that it set the agenda. Robert Jenrick was on, I think it was on the Today programme, he was on Newsnight talking about this. I'm not sure the Herman one has got quite as much traction, but it has sort of propelled him and this mad concept of Conservative opposition top of the news agenda, which is interesting.
It's quite a clever strategy, George, isn't it? Particularly the one on the fare dodgers, because it is just an everyday, occurrence for a lot of people who live in the capital who've seen this happen. And even if, you don't live, even if you don't use the tube, you still might live somewhere where you go to your local shop and you notice that people are shoplifting sort of in broad daylight with no one pushing back against it, police not turning up, shop workers not being able to do anything about it. It's that kind of feeling, isn't it?
Yeah. It's got 50 million views, so it's cut through. And you're right that he's, as well as campaigning against City Calm, which obviously Conservatives do all the time, he is capturing that general sense of discontent and lawlessness. I mean, when I put the video to one Labour strategist, they said, where was Robert Jenrick when the Conservatives were cutting the police and probation to the bone? Oh yeah, he was voting for it. So that's Labour's riposte, but it may prove effective. I think it'll be interesting to watch Jenrick's fortunes from here, because I went back and looked at the most recent polling I could find, and he's not a well-liked politician. He was, I think, fairly near the bottom. Net approval rating somewhere in the -20s. I mean, if any listeners have seen polling showing that he's popular, feel free to share. But I haven't seen any since these videos. So the challenge for him is that he's a Conservative. There are very few Conservative politicians at the moment who can transcend that brand because it's so toxic. I think Boris Johnson is perhaps the only one. You still see polls showing that he would be able to beat Starmer and Farage in a head-to-head contest at the election. I haven't seen anything like that for Robert Jenrick. So I think that's the challenge. Can he shed that Tory association, and can he offer something that's similar but different to Nigel Farage? Because that is the classic critique, is that you can't out-Farage, and voters who really want that populist insurgent style will go reform.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you say sort of that shedding that Conservative label is the biggest challenge, because some within the party might see it as a sort of insurgent campaign against the leadership. Rachel.
No, never. No, shadow cabinet members never plot to get the top. I don't know what you're talking about, Anoosh. One Tory MP, or former Tory MP who lost a seat in the last election, described it as Kemi Badenoch is doing an impossible job really badly, and that is masking the fact that Robert Jenrick would do an impossible job very slightly better. The idea that he is some kind of saviour waiting in the wings who could come in and just reverse the Conservative toxicity. As George said, there is a lot of rebuilding to do in the Conservative Party. Some of it is going to take a lot of time. Some of it is going to take an actual kind of cold, hard look at their record, which so far they haven't really been able to do. But it is also true that one of the criticisms of Kemi Badenoch is that she's just a bit lazy, and she, where is she? She's not out talking to the media. What is she doing? She's not visible. She's not on the front pages. Nigel Farage is more likely to be on the front pages than she is, which is allowing him to position himself as the de facto leader of the opposition. And what Robert Jenrick is doing is actually working really, really hard. He's making these videos. He's always on GB News. He's been going up and down the country speaking to local Conservative associations. None of that has stopped. Now, he's doing all of it in the context of, I'm taking the fight to Keir Starmer, and in the case of the TfL video, to Sadiq Khan, I'm taking the fight to Labour. But he's also demonstrating a different style of opposition leadership, and it's very difficult, as you say, not to make those comparisons.
Yeah, or is he making a bid for Mayor of London one day, George? Usually when politicians put out these videos sort of on the streets of London, that's what they're planning.
Yeah, I would be surprised if he goes to that. Although, look, it probably depends in part on how the Conservative soap opera that Rachel's been chronicling plays out. But look, I think he has his eyes on number 10.
Yeah.
He's clearly a very ambitious man. And it's funny, I was saying to someone in Westminster yesterday that people often underestimate just how fixated politicians are on becoming prime minister. There will be lots of backbenchers who they've never heard of who are sitting there on the green benches dreaming of delivering their first speech outside number 10. Robert Jenrick is certainly in that camp and doesn't really hide it.
I think he has set his ambitions higher than Mayor of London. And also, of course, the London mayoral election took place in 2024. We're not going to have another one for 3 years. And I think if you look at what's going on in the Conservative Party at the moment, he is probably predicting that there might be a vacancy in that job before there is a vacancy in the London mayoral one.
And someone who said that they are considering running for Mayor of London is James Corden.
No,
George,
please, no.
Would that give you a dilemma over who to vote for?
No, it wouldn't. All I'll say on that is I think the celebritization of politics is a negative trend. And it does seem to particularly happen with mayoral contest. Yeah. Look, London mayor, it's a big job. I think they have the single biggest directly elected mandate of any politician in Europe. You're managing a capital city of 9 million people, a massive transport system,
Commissioner
huge
of the Met.
soft power. Yes, exactly. Yeah. All of that. And I think everyone would agree that the overall calibre of London mayoral candidates has not been as high as it should be. So we need, I would say, sort of fewer of the James Corden-style candidates and more serious politicians with genuine experience and genuine ideas.
I'm trying to imagine what a James Corden run London might look like.
I find him so annoying. I'm sure he's a lovely person, but I find his ubiquity in entertainment really annoying, and the idea of him coming into politics as well, I also find really annoying. But my other suggested candidates for Mayor of London were all celebrity entertainers, and now that George has made that very good point, I'm sorry to be the
party pooper.
I was going to say Sandy Toksvig, but
I'm all for Count Binface, and that's the novelty. You want one novelty candidate in the field, but
you've got to give Count Binface his space.
I think it's when it's the entire crop, then you do start to despair a bit.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you both of you.